excited this afternoon to have our really, really good friends all the way from around the world. It's not that far away, Kelvin and Rebekah Windsor. These guys have been good friends of ours for some years now. It's been challenging not being able to be with them and not having, and I know for them it's been challenging not being able to have people visit them either. But I have heard some exciting news just recently. They might share that with you. But I thought what I might do just to start with is just get them to introduce themselves, let us know, who you guys are, a little bit about your family, and a little bit about what you're doing as and what your role is with ACC World Mission. So welcome.
Thank you. So the exciting news is not that we're pregnant. Just want to put that out there and squash it right there and then, so no one gets any ideas. No, we had family come in yesterday. Haven't seen family in 3 years, and so Beck's parents and sister flew in, surprised the kids. They had no idea. So as parents, it's a win. We can still lie to our kids. And so, that's always good. But yeah, it's been 3 years since we've really seen anyone come in, or we've been able to really go back to Australia, and visit partners. And a lot of part of that has been our own decision to remain here in Vietnam, one, so that we can continue the work and support our team as well. And our team here on the ground, we're really appreciative that, we didn't, when borders were closing, that we didn't up and leave and which we didn't feel that God was telling us to do anyway. So, they were really happy that we could and we were able to do this.
Yeah. And then in addition, we ended up, because of the visa apocalypse and everything with COVID, because Vietnam shut its borders 25 months ago. So it was only with government that you could get out. But yeah, we didn't want to do that. But then the pastor of the local fellowship that we're a part of and have served on the board and, as key leaders for years, she ended up going back to the States to be with her husband, who had already gone before COVID, and they're still there. So we got asked to pastor the church, and a year and a half later, we're still doing that too. So yeah, it's not a good time to go because we're a little bit busy.
Yeah. So before you were doing what you're doing now, before lockdown and restrictions, and you guys not being able to kind of, administrate, facilitate all of the projects you were doing. Can you give us a bit of an idea? So 27 months ago, what kinds of things were you involved with in the local community in Vietnam?
It's actually been good in a way. We haven't, we've slowed down a little bit, but we haven't stopped. We've still been able to do quite a number of things within the community. So much so that last year, the security police who monitors everything that we do, they follow us around.
They're the anti-terrorism police. They're assigned to us, though.
So they, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's me.
Something about us is special. So we've got the terrorism police to look after our project.
But they contacted us and they were like, well done with meeting, requirements this year and what we were able to do during COVID and all that. And they've never done that before.
Never.
And they never give out compliments. Whenever they call, it's always usually, well, we've been seeing you do this. Be careful, or, do this. You've had teams come in and, so it's never usually a good conversation. But we've been able to do clean water, boreholes into communities.
Heart operations have gone on without skipping a beat because it's literally like life-saving. Yeah. It's like, well, this is time sensitive. We can't wait for COVID to save this child. And so our medical assistance programs in general with scanning kids, because Vietnam is one of the top 5 nations in the world with cardiac issues for children under 11. And it's the number 1 cause of death. So you would think, how could you possibly be doing a couple of hundred heart surgeries a year? But it's such an issue here, and each child has it very differently. So we've been partnering with different hospitals to get their doctors and the clinics and all the equipment to go to schools or a health centre and bring the kids there instead of, hundreds of visits. So it's worked well. We've just had to obviously navigate that between our many different lockdowns. But, once lockdowns lift, then we've been able to, scan like 20,000 kids in the space of a month because everyone's, braced and ready. We also, just over a year ago, had 17 typhoons in the space of 3 months. So a lot of damage there. So we ended up doing a huge amount of disaster relief. And our emphasis was on helping clean water sources, like, with the different kinds of stuff to clean people's wells and boreholes, and then cleaning supplies to clean out the healthcare centre so people could get healthcare in a sanitary environment and, packs for families. And and then on top of that, we've been doing constantly COVID relief in some way, shape or form, or
masks or sanitizers.
Oxygen machines, like where there's no oxygen, it's the number one way to keep people alive. We had a very generous partner. Yeah,
one of our mountainous communities, they're pretty far removed from everything.
They live in stilt houses and...
Yeah, so, it's like a 6-hour drive from Danang to kind of get there. And we're able to supply pretty much every community in that area with an oxygen machine. So you basically put clean water into this unit and it helps to generate. So it's easy, sustainable.
Not an old school metal rusty oxygen tank where you can't tell how much oxygen is in the tank.
But with COVID and all that was going through, obviously breathing issues. Already they have breathing issues because a lot of their cooking is done with smoke and fire.
Coal.
And, and so outside. Then it's that breathing in over generations and all of that. So those oxygen machines were able to go out and really help people up there.
Well, that's awesome, guys. I mean, it's so encouraging to hear that you've been able to be super effective despite the restrictions. That is super encouraging. I guess what I would actually like to hear, and I think our team would really love to hear, is a little bit about your story to the place that you find yourselves in today. It sounds like you guys have kind of now somewhat just part of the furniture when it comes to world missions in Vietnam, but world missions in general in the ACC, in our movement. But it obviously hasn't always been that way. There's been this, you obviously felt a call of God upon your life. You obviously maybe were kind of, prophesied over there was something obviously drew you to what you're doing today, or did you just wake up one day and, hey, you're in Vietnam? I'm not sure. But I'd love to hear, and I think our team would, a little bit about your journey toward this full-time ministry, role that you have now in the field in Vietnam. It's not a common calling. Obviously, you guys would probably know more than ever. We need more people in more places around the world. So how did you end up finding yourselves where you are today?
Cool. All right. Well, I guess you start, maybe. Use yours to start.
Chronology.
Yeah.
Even when my mum was pregnant with me, they'd had a word that it was always going to be Hannah and Samuel moment. Like there was just, it would be for a short season. And I've had a heart for overseas and missions. I was a very little girl. And we met a missionary who was speaking at our church from Indonesia, and I just knew I wanted to do that. And so everything toward, I went on a lot of short-term missions trips, did a degree in Asian studies because I knew it was Asia. I think I'd been on 15 plus trips before I was working on staff full-time at church, because my pastor had always said, don't you dare go overseas if you're not already, in ministry where you're planted, that you have no right being overseas. And so they had always been really great. I'd been volunteering since I could stand at church. We were kind of, that was our family. And lots of trips, but then I was on staff, and one day our pastor, just before our annual missions thing for the year, said they were going to start supporting this couple in Vietnam, and my heart just stopped. And I just knew that was it. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm ready. And he was not impressed. They had sent a bunch of different field workers and had supported them, but different things, classic missionary burnout and things. And so they were pretty jaded from supporting field workers and just wanting to support projects. And that was kind of the era with missions, how it was about 15 years ago. 15 years ago, because last month I celebrated 15 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Big round of applause. Well done, well done.
But, yeah, so I came on a trip for a couple of weeks to see if it was real. And then 2 months later I moved here. Wow. And I was prophesied that I would meet a few gentlemen in a very short period of time, and one of them I was going to marry, and be careful who I chose. And 6 months in, this one came visiting on a short-term team.
Hopefully they were talking about me and not someone else.
You know which one I chose.
And for me, quite different. Didn't want to do missions at all, had no desire.
You just fell in love. You fell in love. Come on, let's be honest here, guys. Come on. Oh, look at that. We've lost them.
There
we go. We're back.
Welcome back.
So thank you. I had no desire whatsoever. My dad's from India, my mum's from Burma. I grew up hearing stories about how life was overseas, and Australia was good. Australia's a good place to be, lots of opportunities and all of that. And so I had no desire whatsoever. And for me, missionaries were, cold used tea bags, bottle glasses, lipstick on the teeth, and I don't wear lipstick. So, what's the use of that? But I grew up Catholic, and after we left the Catholic church, started attending an ACC church and Pentecostal church, and they started talking about missions and sort of getting a different look on life. And attended a Planet Shakers conference one year, and they were singing the song, Lord, send me and I will go. And God stopped me, moved the Holy Spirit, and God just stopped me dead in my tracks and singing and saying, do you actually mean the words that you are singing out of your mouth, or are you just singing them because they're on the screen? And so I had to kind of pause and make a decision at that moment and go, am I singing them because I mean them, or, what? And so I told God, I will go wherever you want me to go and do whatever you want me to do. Still had no desire to do missions at all, but I guess it was a release from me in a decision going, I'll do whatever you want, God. And then fast forward a few years, we went on a short-term missions trip with our church. They were going to Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam. And so because my mum is from Myanmar, I wanted to go to Myanmar and see my uncle and all that. And then we came to Vietnam, and I fell in love with Vietnam because someone was there on the ground.
Yeah, you fell in love with Vietnam. Okay.
Right. We kind of started dating, continued to date. Still didn't know which way was up, whether or not we'd be overseas or back in Australia, but we just
I could think of nothing worse than marrying a pastor and being a pastor's wife. I've got my own anointing, and I don't want to be a pastor. It's missionary only. Hilariously, I'm both.
and I didn't really still have any desire to do missions either. And then
it was a God thing.
But yeah, we knew our relationship was a God thing, so we thought we'd just give it a try and see how it goes. We got married. Our pastor at the time said, look, what are you guys doing? Are you coming? Are you staying? What's happening? And so we told him we'd give him 5 years in Melbourne to serve him at the church. Beck almost died, but we survived. And then 2 years into that, he was preaching a message out of the book of Acts, where the church gets persecuted. Because they get persecuted, they start to flee and move. And the church grows, the gospel spreads because of that.
And then he became the director of ACCI. So he had a very different feel on missionaries.
Yeah.
So then
basically, we had an offer from Paul and Deb here to come and eventually take over, which we're doing now, the whole stuff here. And so we prayed about it, and the message came up at the time. There were a few things other happening in our lives, and just felt God was saying, this is a door I am opening for you. This is where I want you to go through. And so that was almost 11 years ago. Well, that was more than 11 years ago, and 11 years ago we came here.
Yep.
Wow, what a story. Well, we're pleased that you said yes, and because the work you're doing over there is phenomenal. I've been over there a few times with you guys, and Rach has as well, and we're very keen to bring a team over there as soon as we can once again to see the amazing work that you guys are doing. You're obviously in your own right, whether you've had to learn to or just innately are great leaders. You don't get to be able to contribute the way that you have without being able to lead people, and you don't get to have the longevity that you've got without being able to lead your own lives. But I do find it interesting because like we all do lead people who aren't like ourselves. We all lead, in a sense, somewhat cross-culturally, because like we lead people who have different values to us, even in our own countries, different beliefs, different worldviews. But you have not only have to navigate that, you've also got to navigate a significant language barrier, as well as the cultural differences are huge. So I guess my question as we begin to wrap up is, what kind of leadership skills have you learned or developed over the last 11 years, 15 years that have helped you to lead people that are different to you, like significantly different? Because I think we could all learn from that, all learn from the lessons of how to lead people that aren't the same as us.
I'll go. I think we had both of us had a good start to leadership in both of our churches. We're both under very amazing leaders, strong leaders, directional, knew what they wanted and how to do things. So we picked up a lot from that. In the same aspect, in the same side, some of that leadership not entirely works at times, especially when you're talking cross-culturally in different ways. One of the things I've picked up over the years is just, I guess, calm down a bit and do things slowly.
Wow.
Especially in the culture that we are in here, nothing gets done quick. No. And everything gets done through relationship. And so sometimes it's like, well, why can't we do this? It's quite simple with my Australian mindset going, it's just simple. Can we just ask the question? Can we just work this out? Can we just do this? And that sometimes that doesn't work here at all.
9 out of 10.
And so learning and being going, and if you know our team here, Mr. Co has been great in showing us that and going, we just need to take things slowly. It might take us a bit longer, but we'll get there, and we're not going to burn bridges with people
just
along the way just to achieve the goal. And so that's been probably one of the biggest developments for me, and just calming down. Okay, it is what it is, so to speak. It still frustrates me at times. I can bank in Australia from Vietnam easier than I can bank in Vietnam. So, those sort of things drive me crazy sometimes, especially with my history in accounts and all that. But it's just going, okay, you need another 5 paperworks. I will make the 10-minute trip back to the office.
To put the red stamp on it.
Sort it all out and come back. And so those sort of things for me.
I think multiple things for me. Like I first moved here when I was 23, so a good portion of my life now has been spent here. But I would not say that I am naturally a gracious person. Like that is not the word that you would naturally have thought if you've ever met me. Husband knows. And yet now I find it hilarious the number of people who say, oh, you were one of the most gracious people we've ever met. And hubby still gets a good kick out of it because he knows it's been a God thing and that's taken time and learning. That was not gracious. Don't do that again. So that's been a very hard fought lesson, but it pays off. And now people think it's naturally a gifting that I have, which is hilarious. They have no idea how much hard work's gone into it. And being flexible, like since I was a child, it's either black or it's white. There is no ombre. There is no in between. But now I would be a very flexible. I love change. If it happens, okay, sure. Let's adapt and let's change to that. Again, and team. Whereas I used to totally be if you want it done right, do it yourself. Delegate, why bother? I can just do it all myself anyway. Whereas now, even though it would take longer, say with our media guy, Kelvin had 0 patience to talk to him, but I'd sit with him and I knew how to talk to him to be able to get what I wanted out of him. And so I've learnt the art, or still learning, I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but recognizing not everyone thinks the way I think or has the same capacity, and that's okay. But how do I need to speak to this person to get what I want out, or to have the relationship that we need, because everything in Vietnam is relationship. So how do I need to speak? How do I need to behave and communicate with you in every sense of the word to be able to maximize that relationship?
Just also remaining teachable and going, we don't know everything, even though we think we might. And there's still improvements we need to do as people. And so learning and trying to recognize that in ourselves and going, I don't do this great.
Yep.
Where do I need to change so I can be better, so our team can grow, so things can happen?
Kids are great for that, though, because you see your flaws in them. You're like, oh, that's so unattractive. I broke you there.
That's awesome. Well, we're so thankful that we at Beyond Church get to be a part of what you're doing in Vietnam. We seriously are. We just think it's such a great privilege to be included in the great work that's happening over there with you guys. And like I said, we can't wait to get over there. But we love seeing what you're doing. We love hearing about what you're doing. So thank you for that, and thanks for joining us today to be here live with our team. And like I said before, we'll be able to send this to the rest of our team who can't be live with us today, and they'll get to hear from you as well. And, some of that leadership stuff, I was actually thinking that's really good advice, actually. Like, that's so helpful. And I can just imagine if we took you guys out of where you are now and placed you in any church here in Australia, I'm sure you would probably surprise yourselves at how effective and, how much impact you'd have as leaders over here. You're just doing a phenomenal job. We're just so proud that we can be a part of it.
We just want to say as well, just thank you to you guys. It's been a long time. We're hoping we can get back soon, later in the year, hoping maybe Christmas
through to national
conference. We'll be back in Australia.
Cool. Come on.
And so we'll hopefully, we definitely want to see you guys. Lots have happened with you guys since, we were there 3 years ago. Another, Scone, Toronto, online.
And the other one.
So that's not correct, which we've been to technically.
True. No, we've missed one.
Online, I said.
Oh, yeah.
So, lots, you guys have done a lot too. And, we're excited to be able to get back and spend some time with you guys as well. And awesome things. And a huge thank you for your support for us.
Yeah. We love being a part of it, mate. We love what you guys are doing. So good. All right. Well, thanks so much again. And thanks to our team for joining us. If you're jumping onto our executive team meeting, we'll jump back onto this link at 12:45. That sound good to you, Rach? And Rach is going to lead us around that meeting. If you're not in the exec meeting, that's fine. Any final comments or farewells for Rebekah and Kelvin before we say goodbye? I noticed, Judy and John, there's an Indonesian connection there again. These guys, Kelvin and Beck, spent a few years in Indonesia as missionaries, leading a school there. Is that right?
We pastored as well.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, we spent 7 years on the outskirts of Jakarta, but doing a lot of mission stuff. I worked in Aceh after the tsunami.
Oh, wow.
And then when we went again into Bali, we looked after Andrew, Chan and Myron up till their execution, the Bali 9. So when you said about being patient and just going with the flow, I don't know how many bits of piece of paper had red stamps on them in Indonesia, but I call Indonesia the land of the long white smile, because you have absolutely no idea what they're thinking, but they're smiling.
Yes.
And
in Vietnam, you have a car accident and I'll just sit there and smile and laugh.
Yes, and everybody's a spectator when there's a disaster.
Oh, yeah. That's classic Asian culture. It's just like, someone stop the bike and watch.
The one thing that I think I took away from it was learning to understand circular thinking, because we're all linear in the West, and that's where you have to go with them on their journey to get to the end goal rather than you do it your way. So, yeah.
Yeah. But God bless you guys.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, and we really understand
right.
what it's like. And you're amazing that you've sustained it for so long, really, because that missionary thing, the hardest part, as we experienced, was the reverse culture shock when you come back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thanks,
John. And we've also got another teabag specialist on the call. Natalie is the daughter, or I guess you could say she was also a missionary, not by choice, in Africa for a few years. I'm not sure how long, but we've got a strong representative of missionaries on the call today, which is so cool. All right, thanks everybody. We'll say farewell.
God bless you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.